What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the JT Sports Podcast. I'm your host, JT. Happy Easter to you all. Got a few thoughts on the NFL that I want to get off my chest on this episode. I saw Aaron Rodgers popping off on the Pat McAfee show about his experience with New York Jets new head coach Aaron Glenn, who kind of hurt his ego a little bit from what it sounded like. Ashton Jeanty, despite being a running back, he is definitely worth being drafted within the first 7 picks of this draft. The Steelers at this point, they might as well give Tom Brady a call with the available options that they have to choose from out of the recycling bin when it comes to addressing their quarterback position. The New York Giants, believe it or not, have quietly had the best offseason in the NFL up to this point. And why do so many teams love overpaying for mid-quarterback play? We'll break down why. And Jerry Jones is turning the Dallas Cowboys into the NFL's version of Last Chance U. Before we get into it all, if you love and want to support the pod, all we ask is that you hit that like button. It helps us rank higher in the YouTube search algorithm, helps us grow. It takes less than a second to do. Subscribe, turn on post notifications. If you're new, check us out on Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your podcast from. The JT Sports Podcast is available. The links are down in the description down below. Give us a 5-star review if you enjoy, and let's dive into it. Aaron Rodgers was popping off recently on the Pat McAfee show about his final experience with the New York Jets, and it didn't go the way that he had envisioned. He flew all the way across the country on his dime to sit with New York Jets new head coach Aaron Glenn and the new regime that they have up there. And Aaron Glenn, he didn't want to beat around the bush when it came to Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers pretty much got a dose of his own medicine. You know how he likes to leave these teams in limbo when it comes to his future, like what he's doing with the Steelers at the moment, what he did with the Green Bay Packers. Well, Aaron Glenn wasn't playing none of that shit. He wanted a firm answer from Aaron Rodgers. You sure you want to play football? Yes or no? What does Aaron Rodgers say? The typical Aaron Rodgers response, yeah, I'm interested. Aaron, what is I'm interested? The dude asked you a simple question. Do you still want to play football? Yes or no? And you didn't give Aaron Glenn the answer he was looking for. Yeah, I'm interested doesn't show that you still plan on playing. So, of course, Aaron Glenn claps back and he says, how do you want to be released? And Aaron Rodgers is like, He's shocked because, remind you, Aaron Rodgers has never been in a situation like this before. He has always had the advantage when it comes to these kind of scenarios, but not this time. Aaron Glenn put his foot down, and he pretty much said that I don't want to be in the room saying something, and guys are looking back at you, pretty much insinuating that Aaron Rodgers will be undermining him. And Aaron Rodgers felt disrespected by these comments. His ego was hurt by Aaron Glenn. And he says, Aaron Glenn, I don't know you, and you definitely don't me. And Aaron Glenn was like, yeah, you don't know me. Get the hell out of my organization. And told Aaron Rodgers to get the step in and to lock the door when he's leaving on the way. Round of applause to Aaron Glenn for not putting up with any of this Aaron Rodgers nonsense. Look, I love Aaron Rodgers, but I watched a little bit of his documentary, and he's a little bit of a complicated person. I'm not going to say he's weird, but he definitely is a complicated person. He's not your average Joe. He has a different way of thinking, and Aaron Rodgers, with the kind of personality that he has, he isn't for everybody. You're either going to love him or you're going to hate him. And Aaron Glenn, you know what they say? First impressions are everything. And Aaron Rodgers didn't make a good first impression on Aaron Glenn to keep it nice. And they now have moved on with Justin Fields, which looks like will be their starting quarterback for this upcoming season. Of course, with the draft being just around the corner, they definitely probably are going to draft a QB in the middle rounds as well. But Aaron Rodgers pretty much got his ego hurt. Aaron Glenn, he kind of walked all over Aaron, kind of made him feel a little bit less than what he normally feels like. And listen, you have to feel really confident about the direction the Jets are heading with Aaron Glenn and this new regime. The old regime was on their knees with their pom-poms out, sucking up Aaron Rodgers, getting bent over, listening to his every demand. And I'm not saying that Aaron Rodgers was fully accountable for how disastrous last season was, but he definitely was 70% responsible for the mess. The Jets pretty much gave him all the players that he asked for. He had a little bit of say in the coaching staff with Nathaniel Hackett being his offensive coordinator. Aaron Glenn, with how Aaron Rodgers was used to having so much control, he was right to assume that Aaron Rodgers was going to be a little bit of a drama queen. He was going to drag this situation out. This is just who Aaron Rodgers is as a person. He loves to feel wanted. He loves the attention, and he does things in a manner that he feels the world only revolves around him. With Aaron Glenn, he's like, no, buddy, if you're going to be a New York Jet or a part of my squad, you're going to do things the way I want them. And if I tell you to do something, I don't want you going back to the guys in the locker room and forcing them to do otherwise, because then you're going to cause dysfunction among my team, because guys aren't going to know who to listen to, me as a head coach or you. And Aaron Glenn, being a rookie head coach, if he would have decided to roll with Aaron Rodgers, it would have made things hella complicated for him. Aaron Rodgers, with the respect that he has among his peers in the league, regardless of what you guys may think about Aaron Rodgers being a locker room cancer, there were a lot of players, including Quentin Williams, who weren't really happy with the news that he was getting released. And it seems like a lot of guys in that organization really liked Aaron Rodgers. Although Garrett Wilson and him had a little bit of static, for the most part, Aaron Rodgers was pretty beloved. But if you are going to be a first-year head coach and your first job is trying to rebuild a franchise or turn around a franchise that hasn't been that good for well over a decade, having a guy with the kind of pull Aaron Rodgers has makes it hard to get guys to buy in, because they still are going to be looking at Aaron Rodgers for the leadership when the leadership has to be coming from Aaron Glenn. So you get rid of Aaron Rodgers, now it makes it a lot easier to get everybody on board. And Aaron Rodgers is one of those kinds of players where he's not really a team player per se. He's more of an individual. He's more of a I guy. And to be a successful football team, everybody has to be aligned. From the organization on the front office level, executive level, to the coaches, to the players. And Aaron Rodgers has been known to beat to the beat of his own drum, if that's what you want to call it. And Aaron Glenn pretty much telling them to get the F out of my facilities is pretty much telling Aaron Rodgers that, you know, I don't appreciate your attitude. I don't really like how you go about addressing my questions, because Aaron Rodgers never gives you a direct answer. And yeah, you probably could have handled this with the phone call. If you would have released Aaron Rodgers on the phone, he would have came out and said that I just felt it was a little bit disrespectful for a player of my caliber, a future first ballot Hall of Famer, to get cut on the phone. I would have at least liked the common courtesy of being released in person. So no matter what, Aaron Rodgers was going to feel slighted in this situation. He's never been cut before. He's always been at the power advantage with guys sucking up to him. Aaron Glenn wasn't tolerating that shit. And you got to feel confident about what he's going to bring to this Jets organization in the near future. This is already a W, and the season hasn't even started, but Aaron Glenn, this was a culture-setting moment for him. He sent the message to the rest of that locker room. He said that we don't care who you are, what you've done in your career up to this point. If you're not willing to buy in, and you're not willing to be all into the culture that I'm trying to instill into this franchise, you can pack your bags and you can get to stepping. And Aaron Rodgers' ego, let's be honest, Aaron Glenn kind of hurt. He hurt his ego. And that's why Aaron Rodgers popped off the way he did on Pat McAfee about his last experience on the New York Jets. If you haven't already, smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, turn on post notifications so you don't miss when we drop new content. You can't draft the running back in the top 10 of the draft unless it's somebody on the caliber of Ashton Jeanty. Last year, he led all of college football in missed tackles, forcing 151 of them. He was averaging 7 yards per carry, and he had the second greatest season that we've ever seen out of a running back since Barry Sanders when he won the Heisman Trophy at Oklahoma State. In a weak draft class like this one, you can't be nitpicky about positional value. Ideally, in a good draft, you don't want to take a running back high, such as, within the first 7 picks. But Ashton Jeanty is the outlier for that. With there only being about 5-7 blue chip players in this draft class, passing on Ashton Jeanty is a big mistake because you're looking at a guy in Ashton Jeanty that has a gold jacket awaiting him when his career is all said and done in Canton, Ohio. He has everything that you look for in the elite running back: elite vision, patience, a rare blend of power, elusiveness, and speed. He has the ability to catch the ball out of the backfield at a high level. He also can line up wide and play a little bit of receiver for you. All of the intangibles that you look for in the elite back, Ashton Jeanty possesses. And a lot of the things that he did in college, despite the level of competition he was going up against, that's often used against Ashton Jeanty. He played in the Mountain West against JV schools. Trent Richardson and Eddie Lacy came from the SEC from Alabama, and they were quickly out of the league within a span of 3-4 years. It doesn't matter the level of competition that you played. Ashton Jeanty has a lot of things that he did in college that translates well in the NFL. Normally, when you have a running back that forces 151 missed tackles, that carries over into the league. If you're breaking tackles in college football, you're going to break tackles in the NFL. Despite him being 5'9", 211, 215 pounds, the dude's built like a freaking freight train. And against Oregon, he had 192 rushing yards, 4 touchdowns. He was averaging damn near 8 yards per carry. Against Penn State, in that playoff game, he converted a 3rd and 21. Just because Ashton Jeanty went against inferior competition doesn't mean that once he gets to the NFL, he's going to end up regressing. He is an all-time talent, and you can't always evaluate talent based off the level of competition. Josh Allen played at Wyoming in the Mountain West Conference. Patrick Mahomes, Baker Mayfield played in the Big 12. You can't scout players based off colleges and based off conferences. You have to separate that and just evaluate the player for the skill set. And if playing in the Mountain West was so easy for running backs to dominate, why haven't any other running backs in this conference had anywhere as good as a season as what we've just seen out of Ashton Jeanty? Ashton Jeanty is worth being a top 7 pick for any team that's looking to add a weapon on their offense. Ashton Jeanty isn't just a running back. He's a weapon. You can utilize him in so many different ways. He's a home run threat waiting to happen. If the Raiders have the opportunity to draft Ashton Jeanty, they have to pull the trigger. What are some weapons on the Raiders offense that you can name without using Google? And don't say Brock Bowers. We already know about Brock Bowers. Name me 2 other weapons that Geno Smith has on that offense other than Brock Bowers. You can't name them outside of Jacoby Myers. That might be it. Ashton Jeanty would be another all-pro player that the Raiders could add to this offense. And when Geno Smith was at his best, when he was playing with the Seattle Seahawks, is when he had a legitimate rushing attack. With the patience and elite vision that Ashton Jeanty possesses, he doesn't need to have the greatest offensive line to make an instant impact. Saquon Barkley was arguably the best running back in the league for all the years he was with the New York Giants, despite always having below average offensive line play. When you have the kind of patience and vision that Ashton Jeanty does, he can just find holes that the average running back can't find. No diddy. By the end of Ashton Jeanty's career, he's going to end up being a first ballot Hall of Famer, and he's going to have a first-class ticket to Canton, Ohio. That's the kind of talent that Ashton Jeanty is. He's one of the best running back prospects in the history of the NFL draft. When you are evaluating running backs that are possibly going to be drafted this high, you're looking for elite acceleration. You're looking for explosiveness. You're looking for somebody that's well built. Ashton Jeanty is in the same tier as what Saquon, Jahmyr Gibbs, and Bijan Robinson were. And if your argument against drafting Ashton Jeanty in the top 7 is, well, you can't draft running backs that high, this draft class is considered to be one of the weakest since 2012, 2013. And if that holds to be true, you have a handful of players that are going to result and becoming elite players if you pick them that high. So if you draft Ashton Jeanty, who to me is the second best player in this draft class, you're getting somebody that at least for the next 4 to 5 years is going to be an all-pro level player, a better in your offense. Why do I feel this confidently about Ashton Jeanty? Because a lot of the things that he did at Boise State translates well to success at the next level. And I'm not a general manager, I'm not a scout, but it's not hard to recognize a great talent when you see one. When LaDainian Tomlinson came out of TCU, they weren't in a big-time conference. Running backs, you can find them anywhere. It doesn't matter the conference they play in, the school they played in. Talent is talent. And Ashton Jeanty has the skill set of what you look for in what we call a generational RB. The patience, the vision, the home run ability, what he brings to the table in the passing game. Ashton Jeanty, to me, has a gold jacket waiting for him in Canton, Ohio when he retires from the league. That's how good I feel he's going to be, and that's why he, without a doubt, is worth a top 5, top 7 pick in this year's draft. The draft is only a handful of days away, and the Steelers' options don't really look that promising, with Shedeur most likely going to New Orleans. And if they end up having to get a veteran quarterback, they got to go into the recycling bin to do so. You either got to pick from watch Kirk Cousins or watch Derek Carr. None of those options seem appealing if you're the Pittsburgh Steelers, which is why the Steelers at this point, they might as well go ahead, give Tom Brady a call, and see what it's going to take to bribe him out of retirement. We know one thing about Tom Brady. If he has the opportunity to play football again, he's not going to turn down the opportunity. Even though he's the minority owner of the Raiders, it takes nothing for him to sell his minority share of the team and to get back into the NFL. I'd rather have Tom Brady than go dumpster diving in the bin of washed quarterbacks, because Mike Tomlin has to end this playoff drought. And with Aaron Rodgers more than likely hitting retirement, you don't have any other options. Tom Brady, I don't care how old he is, I'm never going to count out the GOAT. Until Tom Brady physically shows me that he no longer is capable of throwing a football more than 40 yards downfield, the Steelers need to give him a call and get Tom Timothy Brady out of retirement. The Steelers need a damn quarterback. And if you're just going to keep playing musical chairs with these washed veteran QBs, you might as well play it with the greatest quarterback of all time. You can never count out the GOAT. You get Tom Brady, George Pickens, DK Metcalf, a pretty decent offensive line, he can work with that. Tom Brady gives the Steelers a fair shot to win a playoff game with the likes of a Joe Burrow or Lamar Jackson, or if you got to go up against that alien in Buffalo, Josh Allen. At this point, the Steelers need to ring Tom Brady's phone. If they don't want to do it, I'll do it for them. Just tell me Tom Brady's number, and I'll dial him up. I'm pretty confident I can get Tom Brady playing in the black and gold. The Steelers can't keep doing this nonsense at quarterback. It's utterly ridiculous, and it's embarrassing. And for the folks out there that call for Mike Tomlin to get fired due to the lack of postseason success, what the hell do you want this brother to do when you're going into the playoffs against Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Patrick Mahomes, some of the best quarterbacks in the NFL playing in the AFC, and yet you think that Mike Tomlin has a shot to win with Mason Rudolph, a washed Russell Wilson? Let's be realistic now. Mike Tomlin, as good as a coach as what he is, he's been handicapped because he's so good that people think that it's smart to incentivize being garbage so you can get a high draft pick and be in position to get a quarterback. And I don't agree with that. I don't agree with the narrative that the Steelers should just rebuild, trade everybody, and start over again. This is the NFL, not the NBA. You don't trade away Hall of Fame level players. At this point, if the Steelers are considering trading for Kirk Cousins or getting Derek Carr, just go ahead and get Tom Brady. You got a better shot getting juice out of him than what you do with these below average quarterbacks at this point. Kirk Cousins, in his final 5 games as the starting quarterback for the Atlanta Falcons, had 9 interceptions and only 1 touchdown. Nobody wants that garbage anymore. All Kirk Cousins has done throughout his career is scam every team that he plays for. Derek Carr, he has good numbers, but when you watch him play, he's nothing but a check down Charlie. And as a Steelers fan, I'm getting to the point where I'm strongly considering disassociating myself as a fan from this team. And I'm not going to root for another team. I'm just going to be a fan of the NFL because it really grinds my gears how they continue to act like you can win with anybody at quarterback. No, you can't. And for the pundits of Mike Tomlin that want to say, well, he's not a good coach because he can't win come playoff time, what the hell do you want him to do when you're giving him a straw and a gunfight? That's pretty much what you're doing when you're telling him pick from Derek Carr, Kirk Cousins, Jackson Dart, Jalen Milroe. You can't keep expecting to make deep playoff runs when you have below average quarterback play. Once you get to the playoffs, you can't go anywhere further than the first round if you don't have elite level quarterback play. That's just what it is. It's a quarterback-driven league for a reason. It's a pass-heavy league, and you're not going to survive when you're going up against these freaking aliens and these freaking monsters with these rando quarterbacks. You're just not. Get Tom Brady on the phone right now, Mark Khan. You need to dial that brother up and get him playing in a Steelers jersey by the end of this week. Because if not, if the Steelers have to go through another year of tragic quarterback play, TJ Watt, Cam Hayward, they just might crash out. And I wouldn't blame them because I'm ready to crash out. As a Steeler fan, I've had to watch Kenny Two Hands Pickett or Kenny Two Small Hands Pickett, which I knew Kenny Pickett was garbage because any quarterback that plays with 2 long sleeves and 2 gloves, I know you're a duck. You had Mitchell Trubisky starting, for crying out loud. Are you not tired of mid quarterbacks in Pittsburgh? Pittsburgh is one of the most storied franchises in the NFL. But yet, they continue to put these random jabronis at quarterback. I'm freaking tired of seeing these randos at quarterback. If the Steelers got to go get a veteran QB this year, it needs to be Tom Timothy Brady. Go ahead, roll the dice with the GOAT. You don't know if Tom Brady's washed. Tom Brady is the GOAT. Every time you count him out, he always proves you wrong. That's always what Tom Brady has done throughout his career. And I've seen Tom Brady have plenty of clips that he's posted on Instagram of him slinging that football around. He still has a lot of juice in that arm, believe it or not. And with the way that he breaks down these games, being a commentator on Fox, he still has it. Give Tom Brady a call. The Steelers got no choice but to do it at this point. If you're down to Kirk Cousins and Derek Carr, just go out and get Brady. Plus, you can get it for cheap. Tom Brady at this point, he's not trying to get a big bag. He's just trying to play for the love of the game. And if there's any team that's going to allow him to do so, like the Steelers should, they would be foolish not to ring his line. I know this is going to be a little bit insane to hear, but believe it or not, the New York Giants have silently had the best offseason in the NFL up to this point. They're not a worse team than what they were last year at all. As a matter of fact, they're way better going into this season than what they were around this same time last year. In free agency, you walk away with stability at the quarterback position, getting Russell Wilson and Jameis Winston. Look, none of these guys are going to be the long-term answer for you at QB, but at least they give you a chance to win. Russell Wilson, he's a shell of what he used to be during his glory days with the Seahawks, but if you have a somewhat decent team around them and with how good of a play caller Brian Daboll is, Russ is going to keep you in games. Jameis Winston, same thing. The difference with Jameis Winston and Russ, however, is that Russ takes better care of the football, but your offense doesn't have the same potential of getting big plays and scoring as many points with Russ as what you would have with Jameis Winston, albeit with Jameis, he's a turnover machine. But if Brian Daboll can dial that back a little bit, and Jameis Winston can cut his turnover numbers in half like what he did in Sean Payton's final year in New Orleans, you can make it to the playoffs with Jameis Winston. You got a great group of receivers. You re-signed Darius Slayton. Malik Neighbors in year 2 probably could end up winning Offensive Player of the Year. And the New York Giants also legitimized their secondary. This is quietly one of the better secondaries in the NFL, with the Giants signing cornerback Paulson, the Debo in free agency, has very good size, great length. He's a really good number 2 corner. Javon Holland is a top 5 safety in the league. You got him for a pretty good deal. And you already nailed some of the defensive backs that you drafted in last year's draft, like safety Tyler Nubin. He was one of the best rookie DBs in the league last year. Slot corner Drew Phillips is pretty good. Deontay Banks, he's coming off a down year. He had a really good rookie season 2 years ago. I don't know what the hell went wrong for him in 2024, but if he can shake back, this is a really good secondary that the Jets possibly could have, or the Giants possibly could have this year. And the offensive line and defensive line, you didn't get a lot of big names there, but you added quality depth, and the Giants have been quietly improving this offensive line over the last couple of years. It's been almost like 7-8 years since the Giants last had at least an average or above average offensive line. That could change this season. This looks like, on paper, the best offensive line that they've had in a very long time. For the amount of pressure that Joe Schoen and Brian Daboll are under right now, especially with how idiotic Joe Schoen looked and the offseason Hard Knocks last year, you know what they say, pressure either bursts pipes or makes diamonds. The Giants have been making some of their best personnel decisions being under the microscope. And their owner came out at the end of last season. He said, look, I'm giving you guys more time, but you're on thin ice with me. And if they go into week 9 not even being anywhere close to playoff contention, it's going to be over, and it's going to be over fairly quick. And with the draft only a few days away, you're in position to walk away with one of the top 3 players in the class. You can get Travis Hunter, or you can get Abdul Carter. The Giants are going to be in position this season to at least be a 9-win team. And winning 9 games in the NFC puts you in position to at least be a 7th or 6th seed. Brian Daboll is not a bad coach, in my opinion. He's one of the best X's and O's coaches in the league. The problem is that he just hasn't had consistent enough quarterback play. Joe Schoen, as dumb as what he looked on Hard Knocks last year, he's made some really good draft picks. The running back that they got, Tyron Tracy, he was a pleasant surprise. We all keep talking about the loss of Saquon Barkley, but he was one of the best, if not the second best rookie running back in the league last year behind Bucky Irving. And with the moves they made this offseason, they're not flashy. Nobody's talking about them because they just want to go ahead and write the New York Giants off. But if you're a Giants fan, you know, you got to have a little bit of optimism about the direction that this team is heading and where this team is at this point during the offseason. Because this roster doesn't look that bad to me. You're a better team than what the Dallas Cowboys are right now. Jerry Jones is doing nothing but assembling the NFL's version of Last Chance U, which we'll get into that a little bit later, but you won't be able to compete with the Philadelphia Eagles and maybe not the Washington Commanders, but you at least can stay afloat in the NFC East. You can at least stay in playoff contention or be a borderline playoff team. Now, I don't know what the Giants owner is expecting out of this team from a record standpoint, but if you can get the 8 wins, I don't see how you don't keep your job. And 8 wins is definitely plausible with what you're going to get out of Russell Wilson or Jameis Winston possibly, with your offensive line steadily improving, your defense looking really good. The Giants have silently had the best offseason in the NFL, considering the circumstances that they've been in with the amount of pressure that they have on them. I feel like they're giving themselves a good chance, that being Joe Schoen and Brian Daboll, to save their jobs this year. Hey, man, if you listen to podcasts, check us out on Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts from. The JT Sports Podcast is available. Give us a 5-star review if you enjoy. For some reason, there are a bunch of NFL teams that love overpaying for mid-quarterback play. You got Dak Prescott, Tua Tagovailoa, Trevor Lawrence, who are some of the highest-paid signal callers in the NFL at the moment. But why is it? Why are so many teams obsessed with overpaying for mid when they should be trying to find the next Lamar Jackson, the next Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen? Why do teams settle for average, slightly above average quarterback play? We've seen Kirk Cousins make an entire career and a lot of money scamming teams, looking like a great quarterback during the regular season, but come playoff time, he melts like ice cream. Same thing with Dak Prescott. And I feel a huge reason why a lot of NFL teams love overspending for these mid quarterbacks is because they're scared to take a risk. It's hard to find a Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, Joe Burrow kind of quarterback. But it's easy to find a guy like a Dak Prescott, a Tua Tagovailoa that can win you a lot of games, and come playoff time, you believe you have a chance to win with these guys based off how well they normally tend to play during the regular season. And they're not wrong to believe this. All you have to do once the playoffs rolls around, if you're a quarterback, is put together 3-4 good games of great football, which we've seen guys like Joe Flacco do in the past. But the problem with this is, more times than not, these guys are always going to come out flat in the biggest games of the year, especially come playoff time. Once you get into the postseason, you got to have a different mentality. And guys like Dak Prescott and Tua simply don't have it. They don't have that ability to flip the switch and turn it on when the pressure is magnified in the biggest stage, in the biggest moments. But also, even if these players do struggle in the postseason and these teams know it, their belief is the more talent we continue to give these guys, the better chances they have of producing for us. And although it is hard to find a guy like a Lamar or Patrick Mahomes or Josh Allen, you definitely could do a lot worse than Dak Prescott and Tua. Nobody's denying that. For all of the Tuas and Dak Prescotts out there in the world, you got your Will Levises, you got your Kenny Pickett's out there. There is a lot worse that you can do with guys like Tua and Dak, which is what makes it hard for these teams not to commit to them. And for as many people out there who say that these teams shouldn't overpay these quarterbacks or they shouldn't pay them what they currently are receiving, what you won't do, another team definitely will. A team like the Raiders just traded for Geno Smith, who fits the definition of being a mid quarterback, in my opinion. He's not great, but you know he's not good neither. He's like a tweener. He's like a top 12, top 15 quarterback. And if you're within the 12 to 15 range, I consider that to be a mid quarterback. And ideally, you feel like you can win with a guy like Geno Smith if you have the right team around him. But you're capped with a guy like Geno Smith. You're capped with a guy like a Dak Prescott or a Tua Tagovailoa. You can only have so much success with those guys unless you're just an elite head coach, which the guys that these quarterbacks have coaching them aren't. Brock Purdy, you can say that the 49ers are going to end up in this conversation overpaying for what possibly could be a mid quarterback. However, Kyle Shanahan is such a genius when it comes to the offense side of the football. He can elevate a guy like Brock Purdy, who may be a top 12, top 15 quarterback talent, but he can have Brock Purdy performing at elite level. And I feel Brock Purdy is a lot better than what Kirk Cousins, Dak Prescott, and Tua Tagovailoa are at their peak, just because you don't go from being Mr. Irrelevant to leading a team to an NFC championship and a Super Bowl appearance and nearly beating Patrick Mahomes. Brock Purdy played well in that game. The only difference was the 49ers settled for 3 instead of rolling the dice trying to win the game, and they allowed Patrick Mahomes to do it, which you can't do. But these NFL teams are so scared to roll the dice on trying to find that next generational quarterback to where they rather just place themselves in mediocrity forever, being held back by guys like Dak and Tua, who you know are never going to be able to get it done come playoff time, because they have this false belief that if you just keep stacking talent and you keep giving these guys more weapons, you can win with them, and that's just not true. Guys like Patrick Mahomes, Joe Burrow, Josh Allen, they can do more with less. The better quarterback you have, the more you're able to overcome certain limitations. And guys like Dak just never show up when the game is on the line, especially in the fourth quarter. But these teams, though, they rather be stuck in complacency. They rather play it safe and have security than roll the dice on the upside. Because the upside to them, isn't worth the risk possibly of resulting in your team not being good and you're just getting dragged down by bad quarterback play like the Jets have been for so many years with Zach Wilson and whatnot. But with how outrageous these quarterback contracts are getting to within the next 2-3 years, guys are going to be making $70 million potentially. And are you willing to pay a guy like Dak Prescott, Trevor Lawrence, and Tua that kind of money if they consistently don't get it done? These NFL teams are scared shitless of being bad. But the way I look at it is, if you're not winning the Super Bowl, there's no difference between you making it to the playoffs and not making it to the playoffs, because at the end of the day, only one team can win the Super Bowl. So therefore, you might as well take the risk. The Cleveland Browns, as bad as what the Deshaun Watson situation has turned out to be, I still don't knock them entirely for making that trade despite everything that he had going on, because they thought at the time he was still going to be the same player that he was in Houston, that he was the missing piece. When you roll the dice at the quarterback position, it's the ultimate gamble. And, moving on from somebody like Dak Prescott or Tua, as good as what it sounds aesthetically, you could be asked out in a situation where you're what the Cleveland Browns are right now. They thought that the grass was greener with moving on from Baker Mayfield. They kick him to the curb. They bring in Deshaun Watson, and they went from being a borderline Super Bowl contender to now picking top 3 in the draft. That's the kind of situation you can find yourself in if you don't want to keep rolling with guys like Dak and Tua. You definitely could do a lot worse than these guys, but you also can do a lot better. But if you can do better, you do better. And it's hard to upgrade at a position where it's hard to even find just top 15 quarterback play. That's why Kirk Cousins has made so much money scamming these teams, because they believe that with how good he always plays in the regular season, he can piece together 3 or 4 good playoff games, and it never happens. So somewhat, you're handicapped with these mid quarterbacks. Now, how can teams overcome overpaying a mid quarterback? Here's what I would do. The Dallas Cowboys trading for Joe Milton was Jerry Jones sending a message to Dak Prescott saying, Dak, you're on the clock. If you don't start producing within these next couple of years, we're going to go with Joe Milton. He has the upside. He has all the potential in the world to be one of the best quarterbacks in the game. He's an alien. He has great size, good athleticism, and he has the strongest arm in the history of football. That's the kind of way you go about handling mid-quarterback play. Once they get to a certain age, you draft somebody, you let them develop behind them for a few years, and then eventually when you just get fed up and you had enough of them, you move on and you go with the upside. That's the way these teams have to start playing it when it comes to addressing these massive overpays that they're giving these quarterbacks. And eventually, you're going to get to a point where some of these teams got to put their foot down. Eventually, you're going to have to say, nah, I'm not about to pay you $65 million a year. I'm not about to pay you $70 million a year. Are you C.J. Stroud? Are you Jaden Daniels? Are you Lamar Jackson? That's the conversation that these teams have to start asking at these quarterback negotiation tables. If you aren't as good as what these guys are, we're not going to pay you what they're worth. And as harsh as what it is, that's just business. That's how I would go about it if I was a general manager. If Tua came up to me today, he said, hey, I want to get paid. I'll say, how you want a playoff game? Are you as good as what Lamar, Josh Allen, and Patrick Mahomes are? Because if not, I'm not giving you what you're worth. But you know, with these ages and how good they are at negotiations and using leverage, yeah, people want to say the market is the market. Just because gas prices are high, that isn't going to stop me from going to the gas station that has the most affordable gas prices. Just because it's hard to buy a house doesn't mean that you still can't find a good house on a good deal for a good value. You know, eventually the market is the market, but that doesn't mean that you have to concede to what the market standard is and end up asking yourself out to where you're attached for 4 to 5 years with a quarterback that never is going to be good enough to get you over the hump. But these teams, they love stability. They love playing it safe. They love having a quarterback that they know can get them to the playoffs and nothing further, because everybody plays it safe in the NFL. But the teams that are willing to take that gamble, that are willing to roll the dice, get rewarded, such as what the Chiefs have with Patrick Mahomes. They could have easily said, you know what? We don't need Patrick Mahomes. We're good enough with Alex Smith, and if we just keep stacking talent around Alex Smith, we can eventually win a Super Bowl. But no, Andy Reid didn't do that. He didn't play it safe. He rolled the dice, and he went ahead, drafted Patrick Mahomes when everybody said he was going to be a major project, and look what happened. Same thing with the Baltimore Ravens. Instead of continuing to attach themselves to Joe Flacco, who was the definition of what a mid-quarterback was during his peak with the Baltimore Ravens, they rolled the dice, they traded back into the first round, and they got Lamar Jackson. Same thing with the Buffalo Bills with Josh Allen. You never know how better you can do at quarterback if you never take the risk. But these NFL teams, they love playing it safe. They love being conservative. They just think about what can go wrong instead of what can go right. And that's why so many franchises in this league love overpaying and getting scammed by these mid quarterbacks. The Cowboys are assembling the NFL's all-bust team. Some of their more notable free agency moves that they made during this offseason has been trading for guys that were former first-round picks, and they haven't panned out up to this point in their careers, but yet Jerry Jones thinks that he can get some juice out of these guys, and Jerry Jones is essentially turning the Dallas Cowboys into the NFL's version of Last Chance U, with him rolling the dice on a bunch of these former first-round busts, such as trading for linebacker Kenneth Murray, getting cornerback Kaiir Elam. Kaiir Elam has been so bad for the Buffalo Bills that even when they do put him on the field, he quickly gets replaced with how easy it is for opposing receivers to burn him for touchdowns. Kenneth Murray was supposed to be similarly to what Roquan Smith has been in the league up to this point, and he's been nothing but a below-average linebacker at best. And then you sign Solomon Thomas, Peyton Turner, free agency. Peyton Turner hasn't been anything that the Saints thought he would have been when they drafted him in the first round out of Houston a few years ago. Solomon Thomas, I don't think he would be considered a bust since he has been in the league for some point for so many years. He's been a really good rotational guy, but a bust to me is somebody who simply hasn't lived up to expectations, and Solomon Thomas qualifies for that. And let's not forget, when Jerry Jones traded for Jonathan Mingo last year, we haven't heard Jonathan Mingo's name called that much as of late. During the season and during the offseason, the coaches haven't really said, oh yeah, we're excited about what Jonathan Mingo can do his second year in this offense. You know, they currently are eyeballing drafting the receiver early in this year's upcoming draft. And not just are the Dallas Cowboys and Jerry Jones signing a bunch of former busts, but they also are bringing in a bunch of washed players. Signing Miles Sanders, who's coming off some of the worst seasons of his career, that's a bad move. Jerry Jones at this point is making the Dallas Cowboys the NFL's equivalent to Last Chance U, because you're bringing in a bunch of these guys where if it doesn't work out and they don't turn their careers around, they might not ever play in the NFL again, and we more than likely are going to see a good amount of these guys such as Kaiir, Elam, Peyton Turner, Kenneth Murray playing in the XFL once their stint in Dallas is done. These guys are not starting quality players, and they definitely aren't the kind of players that you look for when you're trying to win a Super Bowl, which you would think Jerry Jones would be doing everything in his power to do. With him not getting any younger, he's getting up there in age. Any day now, you know, God could call Jerry Jones up to the heaven gates. But with what Jerry Jones is doing, with him bringing in all of these former first-round picks that have been bust, it's embarrassing to a franchise that has the label America's team. You're America's team, but yeah, you keep signing these Dollar Tree contracts to players that haven't shown one bit of the ability to be a capable contributor to your squad. Kaiir Elam is burnt toast out there. You might as well just move him from cornerback to safety. Kenneth Murray, I don't know how he was a captain on Tennessee, but there is a reason why they traded him. Peyton Turner and Solomon Thomas haven't really shown anything more than they can be okay rotational guys at time. And Jonathan Mingo, he might not even make the roster at the end of the preseason. It's embarrassing what Jerry Jones is doing with the Dallas Cowboys right now. I get that he bought this team. I ain't buying this team to let somebody else run it. I bought this team to run it with my family. And I got a lot of respect for Jerry Jones. You feel me? It's your team. You can run it how you want to run it. But the last time the Dallas Cowboys won a Super Bowl, it was on VHS tapes. You can't even watch a single Dallas Cowboys Super Bowl in HD, 4K resolution. Meanwhile, the Philadelphia Eagles, they're making the right budget deals, such as signing a guy like Dory Jackson. That's the kind of budget deals you should be trying to sign. Sign guys that used to be good, but somewhat have fallen off, and see if you can somewhat resurrect their careers. Don't just try to roll the dice on guys that haven't lived up to the hype they had when they were first-round picks and hope that all of a sudden they come to Dallas and they can turn around. You're just making this team more of a joke than what it already is. And for as passionate as what Dallas Cowboys fans are, they've been awfully quiet this offseason. They haven't been as delusional as what they typically are. And that's because they realize that Jerry Jones is just becoming the second version of Al Golden. Or not Al Golden, but Al Davis. And with the Cowboys turning into Last Chance U now, man, it's hard to see this being a playoff team this year.